In this video, I wanted to share how I'm using the Merging Anubis to process a stereo signal into a three-way crossover, and then sending that signal over a Ravenna network to a happy. And so yeah, I'll just show you my setup here and how I'm doing that, as well as clarify the question I had earlier in the forum. I'll say that the question I posed was partly because I was unclear about one element of how the Anubis worked in terms of its connection to Animan. And one thing I didn't know was that the monitor section here in Animan, it will only show new monitors that you've created with the Anubis if you have turned on and made that speaker set active. And that's one thing I wasn't doing. I didn't realize that if I never initiated this button here, it wouldn't show up in the monitor section until I made a patch. And so I had to select it, it would show up in the monitor section, and then I could make the patches. So that was the one little hiccup that I was running into that I couldn't figure out. All right, let's take a look. So first thing you need to do if you're going to create a stereo three-way crossover or any type of source is to create the source. And so I'll go into settings here and generate a new source. I'll just show you the one I made here, the test crossover. You click create new source to make a new one, and then you can rename it under the name. The type, this is important for making sure that you have the correct channel number. There's a whole list of different options in terms of standard diffusion and surround setup types. And so just make sure that whatever you choose here, it has the right number, and then you can choose the same configuration on your monitor section later. You can see that the patches have already been made, and let's take a look at those in Animan. I have what I needed to do was, because this is a stereo three-way crossover, was send Core Audio's channel 1 and 2 to 3 different pairs of my low, mid, and high frequency. And it's the reason that you're doing it this way with a 6-channel source is because you eventually on the monitor section need to be able to EQ each of these individually. And you can't do that unless you have the same amount of source channels as you do monitor channels. So I've created my source, and now I need to go in and generate a monitor that will be able to control that source. So create new monitor, and here's my test. I have chose to call it a speaker set, and that's important because the different options here have different functionalities in terms of what they can do. So if you know it's going to be for speakers, choose speaker set, and it will give you the options that you need, whereas headphone and cue have some different things going on with them. I have a virtual key selected here, and I could make that anything I wanted in terms of the soft keys on the front. Notice that the type is the same, so 6.0 left, center, right. And then you can see that my channels are patched here. And in Animan, you can see that I've sent those here, those 6 channels. They're sent out to the discrete AES right now output, and each of those is linked up with the outputs from my monitor section. So now looking at the actual crossover, back to the Anubis here, you can see that the EQ section, the only thing about the EQ section that I find a little bit irritating is that there's no way to create, I'll just show with this one here, if you select a high or low cut, it is inherently only a 6 dB per octave cut. And that's a little cumbersome for creating a crossover because generally you don't want 6 dB, you want 12 dB or higher. So the only way to get that is to select multiple bands of the EQ and generate higher order filters by overlapping them. And the reason why that's annoying, I mean, that works in perfectly fine, but the frequency that you're selecting, I'll just show you this here, is not really where the 3 dB down point is for the crossover. So for me, that's a little bit, it's just cumbersome, because when you're creating the mids, now you kind of have to guess where that 3 dB down point is. And I'll probably do a loop back, or just figure out what the math would be in terms of setting these overlapping filters so that I know exactly where the crossover should be. All right, so you can see that each of these is a separate setup, and there's my mids on the left channel and on the right channel. I'm not sure if you could go in and change the names here of the source channels, but this works for me. I don't really need it to say the right thing. Okay, and the last one there, the right channel. So each of those is, you can do anything you want on the 6 discrete channels, including trims, and of course for alignment or phase compensation, you could add delay to your drivers. And that's one of the main reasons that I want to use the Anubis rather than using a external active analog crossover, was that the one I was using didn't allow for delay compensation. And that's one thing that I want to do to tighten up a few things in my room. So that's important to me. The other thing is, now I'm doing it all in the digital domain. There's no added distortion, no added other junk that's going to happen. All right, that's it with the video. Let me know if you have any questions on how I did this, or if you have any thoughts on how I could make it better.